Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rin. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Today I am painting this autumnal inspired illustration. I know this might be a controversial take, but to me autumn starts in August. Autumn is my favorite season, so as soon as it's starting to feel a little bit like fall weather and fall decorations start coming out in stores, it's immediately autumn for me. But I know to a lot of people August is peak summer, so I wanted to paint something that was somewhere between autumn and that late summer feeling. And I had seen this little video of a mouse eating little berries quite a long time ago on social media. I will try to insert a little clip of it here. And I wanted to paint something inspired by that. So as you can see, I have sketched out this little mouse with her little basket picking berries. I don't have no clue what kind of berries these are, but picking some kind of wild berry. And so I started painting this. I felt very unconfident when I started painting this that I was going to be able to paint this well and that this was out of my skill set, because I'm not very well experienced in painting depth in this way, dark in the back and really light at the front. I've never painted anything like this before, so I was super nervous when I started, and I didn't really even want to try to paint it because I didn't believe it was going to turn out all that great. And in the end, I'm not super happy with how this painting turned out, but I did learn things, which I think is the most important thing. So I think I could already paint this again better, but I started with painting the leaves and that little bit of the background, and then here I'm working on these berries. I spent a long time kind of on these berries, way longer than was necessary. I think just because I felt like I actually knew how to paint the berries, and that's something I've painted many times, all sorts of fruit. So I spent longer than necessary on those, but they ended up very detailed. And then in the back here behind these leaves I'm painting, you can kind of see that little green patch. That was moss. It looks better by the time I'm done with the painting. I really didn't like it. That was another thing I didn't think I could paint, and I ended up looking up quite a few tutorials on how to paint moss because I didn't know how to paint it, and I really don't like how it looks at this point in the video. I don't particularly love how it looks at the end of the video, but it looks more like moss than it does right now. Right now it just looks kind of like a green blob. But as with most illustrations or environmental pieces I have painted, I have learned you have to trust the process, because at the start it might not look very good. And I've learned when I know what I'm doing, that's okay, because I don't look at it and think, ooh, that looks really bad. I just look at it and think oh, that's just the beginning stages of whatever I'm painting. But when I don't know what I'm doing, I look at it and I'm like, oh my gosh, that looks terrible. That looks like I can't save it. And here I'm attempting to save it, and even this wasn't really saving it, and I did more work on it later off camera. I did do a lot of this painting off camera because I was so unsure of it, and sometimes when I'm filming, when I'm painting, I'm thinking a lot in the back of my mind about filming and making sure I'm trying to stay in the frame, and that I'm also thinking is what I'm painting interesting to watch, or is it not? And so I just have these added pressures. So sometimes when I'm working on pieces like this where I feel very insecure about it and very unsure of if it's turning out well, I'll end up doing a lot of little things off camera, just because then I'm not thinking about anything but the painting. I've heard a lot of YouTube artists talk about turning on the camera and just kind of forgetting it's there, and I feel so jealous because that is definitely, I'm the exact opposite. I'm the opposite end of the spectrum, where I'm very much thinking about the camera being on and thinking about editing, what I'm filming. Is my shots good? Are they not okay? So anyway, there are a lot of jumps in this painting where you'll see the camera will change and suddenly a lot more will have been done. That's because I was so unsure of what I was doing the whole time painting this that I did a lot of things off camera. But here I started painting the mouse. Something else I wish I would have done different. So for the majority of this painting, I used my little Winsor & Newton palette, and that's what has all these beautiful vibrant greens and yellows and browns. On the mouse, however, I used my Vintage Pastels palette. I mostly started with that palette because I wanted the gray from it, but then I used it also for her clothes and her bonnet. And I feel like those colors are just too pastel for the rest of the painting. They don't blend very well, so I wish I wouldn't have done that, and I wish I would have just done some color mixing and worked really hard to get those same shades in a more bold value, if that makes sense and I'm using those terms right. With the Winsor Newton palette, I think it would have blended together better. But here I am doing the background now on the right side of the page and working on the leaves behind her. I ended up doing the background like that dark brownish black color. That was a color I had mixed with watercolor. I end up redoing all of those areas of the background, I think, gosh, probably 5 times, not an exaggeration. I do not show all of them on camera because I don't think anybody wants to watch me redo the background over and over and over, just to try and get it dark enough that it looked like it was in shadow. Here I am redoing it for the second time. I think this was actually only the second time. So it looked like it was dark and there were things in the foreground, and then she's more towards the background of the painting. But here I'm just redoing that again, and I end up going over it again in a little bit with blue as well, which does look better once I do that. I still was super unhappy with this painting at this point. I had taken it and asked my mom what she thought about it and what she thought I could do to make it look better, and she recommended doing a higher level of contrast and value, so darker darks in the back, which here I'm going over it with the blue. I do think going over it with the blue really helped. I don't know why I didn't think to do that earlier, because I know this is a good way to make shadows. And then my mom also recommended the leaves behind her should have darker values as well. So that's why I'm adding in even a more pigmented version of that yellow and the green, trying not to water them down too much so that you get some more depth behind her. I definitely think it was looking better at this point. And then I wanted to add some color, like fun colors like I like to do, so I added a little bit of purple to Miss Mouse here and on the berries as well. I think I could do this painting better again in my choice of color as well as being able to paint it and have better depth. I think one of the reasons I don't particularly love this painting by the end of it is because it doesn't feel like my normal style, in the fact that I didn't add like some really fun colors. I wish I had added some of the like Vintage Pastels blue on some of the leaves and some of those things. I just was feeling so intimidated by the painting when I started. I didn't think of those things. But I'm glad I did this anyway, because I did learn things, and I think it's important to paint things that you feel intimidated by, or else you won't improve in your artistic skill if you're not painting things you feel intimidated by, or it might take you longer. But after many hours and an extremely messy desk, because I used so many art supplies to try and get it to this point, this is the finished painting. Let me know in the comments what you think about it. Let me know if there's anything else you'd like to see me paint in the future. I will see you in the next one. Remember to be kind and stay cozy. Bye!